Hi, I'm Jen Dalton, founder of Brand Mirror. And today we're going to talk about how businesses have an opportunity to engage their employees authentically and consistently now more than ever. It can be really challenging in a virtual, hybrid, or in person world, especially when it feels so chaotic. So today I'm going to share key insights that will help businesses navigate this unpredictability and hopefully do so in an intentional and compelling way.
And I'm Melissa Jake, CEO and founder of Rescue Event Planning. And I'm super excited to talk about how hosting and planning events in a virtual world, which unfortunately we're still kind of in, right? And especially internal events for your team, how they can fuel your team and get them excited again, even during these tough times. So we'll go through some different techniques and ideas to help you along.
And I don't know about you, but I feel like in a lot of virtual meetings right now, you're seeing fewer people show up. There's not
Mhm.
as much energy. People are just battling Zoom fatigue, COVID fatigue, everything fatigue. And so for business leaders, it's a great time to step back and rethink how
Mhm.
you can have meetings and events that have some formality, but really are more informal to provide a place to connect, right? So
Right.
oftentimes people will jump into a meeting and they'll start with their agenda. And a lot of times, people now are just tired of showing up and observing a meeting. We really want to have people participate, engage, interact. And so, as we think about our time, which I think during COVID, people value their time much more
Yeah.
thoughtfully now, and we don't want to just be in back-to-back meetings. So I think respecting people's time and really thinking about how do we challenge the status quo is critical. It's really all about how are we making people feel when they come to a meeting. So for leaders and people managers, it could be thinking about how do you have one-to-ones? When's the last time you had a one-to-one with your direct reports? And what about your skip levels? So making sure that you have time to simply catch up,
Mhm.
support your team, provide recognition, positive feedback, and really listen to what do your employees need? What are their career plans? And how can you remove obstacles? I know that's tricky because we all feel stress on ourselves, but for leaders, it's important to continue to engage your people and double down on really meaningful dialogue, making sure your people feel valued and feel heard.
And
Melissa,
it's
what do you think? I mean, what are you saying as far as ways to re engage and re excite people in the virtual and hybrid world?
Yeah, I'm so glad that you mentioned that because just my husband is a school teacher for a local school county, and when he has his staff meetings, I say, "Oh, babe, are you on camera?" No, we're just talking. It's not even dealing with me. Yeah, he's a music teacher for the whole school, so sometimes they're getting very specific with different grades, and he's like, "This doesn't even apply to me." And so he's kind of tuned out. So that's why I'm so glad we're talking about this because though I'm not in a super corporate world, here's how event planners and event organizers can help the corporate world understand different ways. So this is one of my favorite ones, and it may seem a little bit crazy, but go with me, okay? Some of the ideas that can help your higher level management work with your other different employees. It's kind of like a speed dating method style, event style, right? So is your cross teams meeting with executives and other employees and maybe asking 5 informal questions for them to learn and just to connect. Nothing dealing with the business, just learning about you. And you never know how you may like Law and Order SVU like I do. And then you're like, oh my gosh, did you see that last episode? And then now that relationship between a lower level or mid level with an executive has totally changed and it shifted the diagram to be able to like, wow, I now respect her or I can relate to her. So if there were any issues of, oh, executives never listen to us, now you can start getting relatable. And don't let it go past then like in 30 minutes, 45 minutes. have some fun, have someone moderate. If it's HR or someone that says, ring the bell, it's time to switch. And, keep the questions and make it fun, almost like musical chairs, and have them move around. I think that's a really good method to try to bridge that gap. And you can do this, of course, in person, but you can also do this virtually. There's a system called Remo where you actually have tables, and it shows a layout of your little avatar, little circle with your webcam moving from table one to table two. So it's really cool. You can do that virtually and still have fun with it. What do you think, Jen?
I think it's a great point, right?
Yeah.
Thinking about different tools, making it fun. And it's a little bit of a pendulum swing, right? Where it used to be meetings, agenda. And I remember in the beginning of the pandemic, it did feel like we could have meetings all the time now because we're virtual. It's very
Yeah.
easy. You just hop on. The challenge was that people were in them all the time. And so now I loved what you brought up around keeping it short, right?
Mhm.
Maybe what used to be an hour meeting is a 30-minute meeting. Um, Maybe instead of doing a operations check-in or finance check-in every single week, maybe one is a deep dive into performance, and the next one, as you said, could be get to know each other, right? An
Yeah.
informal setting. The more we interact informally and get to know, like, and trust each other, the higher degree of trust we can have. And I think that's huge right now. When everything is so chaotic, what do you help make predictable? And if you can have relationships established and connections established, that can really help.
Absolutely. Here's another way, so that's just one. Another way is recognize a recognition event, and that again could be virtual, and make them feel special. How it's been almost 2 years. Actually, it is 2 years that we've been in this. And people have not either have transitioned to another job, started one, maybe they situations happen and someone bumped up 2 levels, and we might have not been able to recognize people, like truly recognize them. So one thing we've done for a client is being able to one do like a virtual photo booth where people
Mm.
can like tag themselves, whether you have a Teams like group me, WhatsApp, your own little social media platform, and you're able to post the photo booth from the virtual photo booth. And the good thing is that you can get it branded, so you can have
Mm.
Amazon, you can have Centene, all the different type of brands that you want on there. Your sponsors, if you want to show your sponsors what you guys are doing, that could be there as well. And then sending out the certificate or even like a brand kit out ahead of time so that we're like coming to the recognition event prepared and everyone's excited. They have their little mug or they have a little party hat or this, certificate is in hand already. And then now we're just formally, recognizing that person. I think that one, it makes people feel special, makes them feel valued. And it takes, again, another time where I'm not on the computer for another meeting. We're having fun. Include a DJ if you like. Have them be able to dance and
Ooh.
have fun. It's a time to really say thank you. People did not have to stay in the same roles, especially people were doing double roles and people were moving around. Really, the what I know when I was an employee, I like to feel valued, and it's not saying you need to give me a raise. Just say, you know what, she did an amazing job, and look what she did. It has now helped the company do this, and it goes a long way.
I think recognition is so undervalued.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's because people think, you're doing your job. Why should I
Mhm.
recognize you? You're doing what you're supposed to do. However, just because people are doing their job doesn't mean you shouldn't recognize that. And if they're going above and beyond, which a lot of people are right now,
Mhm.
or if they're taking on more responsibility because maybe people have left the company, so now they've got to do even more,
Mhm.
then doing recognition is huge. And one of the things that it's a bit of a two for one, but as an employee, if you have a nonprofit or a cause you care about and your manager knows, they could talk to you about giving you a spot bonus. They could also say, what, here's a spot bonus and I'm going to match that and donate, this amount of money to your nonprofit. right? And
Yeah.
then you're all of a sudden recognize the employee, you're giving them a reward, and you're also giving back to a nonprofit in the community as well. So I think be creative with how you do recognition. Don't undervalue it. I love what you were talking about, making it experiential, sending a box. I was thinking of like the cowbell, but that probably would be annoying. Um, but really celebrating. Not everybody has time to celebrate. And you and I have talked about this before. See if they can invite their family. Maybe it's
Yeah.
an evening recognition that's virtual. Bring the family, their family gets to recognize and be a part of it. I think that's an important thing that companies forget too,
Hmm.
is how to have recognition and events that not only include the employee, but the people who matter to them,
Yeah.
because that creates additional connection too.
Absolutely. Because, we do spend, I think there was a study that said we spend more time with our employees and employers than our own family, especially before the pandemic. We were going in 8 hours a day, coming home. If you're fighting traffic in the DMV area, you're in
Right?
traffic for like an hour and a half. Then you get home, just say, okay, dinner, food, kids, great, and go to bed and do it all over again, right? So making sure they feel valued and bringing the family is such a great time to because then it shows that you care about not only just them, but you care about them and their family as well. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah. So another idea in our point three is thinking about brand events, right? So um, how some, you have some employees are just like, I love my company. They'll wear the swag when they're going to bed or out or the grocery bags, whichever. But how do you get there? And so I was talking to someone who's a potential client who has not really thought about their brand and their team. And she has
Mm,
a small team, but she's like, they're so bogged down with the operation side. I don't know if I really can put them on helping with this event. They're going to be turning 50 next year and they need to
mm,
celebrate. So I said, why don't you have an advisory board? Right. And so maybe both of them can't be on it, but can we include some of your board members, maybe some volunteers to be a part of the advisory board? So I would say the same for corporations, high level, mid level, low level, the door person. Include everyone. You can't have the advisory board to be too big now, right? Because you get too many opinions and too many, um, a lot of issues that could happen. But a good size of advisory board is about no more than 7 to 10. Like 10 should be kind of your max.
mm.
And mix of people that can understand what the event is and bring different ideas. Now they're not your event committee, right? They're not the planners, but they're an advisory board that will say, you know what, this would be a great idea. We've talked about this. I'm so glad you include me. Now you can have a good overview of everyone in the company of how they would like to celebrate the 50th anniversary because they're a part of it too. And you want that because that shows your partners, your stakeholders, your sponsors that you have included the community into it. And if you're a nonprofit and you have a space, you have a brick and mortar space, that's even more intentional to have an advisory board that includes your neighborhood watch person, your neighbors as
Mm.
aside you, because they'll be a part of that community and celebrating the 50th anniversary with you. Those are definitely great ways. Having mini town halls are another one too. Including in your celebration could be service projects and all different types of activities, but definitely making sure you have an advisory board. Again, they're not your planning committee. That's not the one that you beat the horse with, but they are ones who kind of give those ideas. Then you have the planning committee there, and you're planning a project management team to say, okay, we got it, coming up with a really good plan on how to execute that vision.
Well, and I think it's really important for leaders to be connected
Hmm.
throughout their organization, whether it's a nonprofit, whether it's with stakeholders externally. And I love your idea about an advisory board. That's a great way to involve people, asking for their input and ideas. And as you said, not necessarily asking them to do work, but
Right.
to help give the leadership team visibility into what are people actually concerned about, what
Mhm.
do we need to talk about, and incorporating that input can shape a really powerful event, and it can help your team feel like your leaders are listening. Um, and it can also be fun. Oftentimes, for town halls or big events like that, the agenda is honestly often business focused.
Yeah.
There's usually some recognition, but I think if you had, a group of people, again, like you said, 4 to 7 people giving you ideas, it could be a fun event. It could be engaging,
Yeah.
and you could really let people be creative, right? You could even, if you did actually have lots of people volunteer to do the event, give them a budget and say, here's $500. What would you do with this to make this event
Right.
fun for everybody, engaging and interesting? One of the things that leaders are dealing with right now is, how do they have clear communication? And a way to do that is to make sure that at big events, and I have one client, they meet with their entire company once a week. Now it's only for 30 minutes, but
Hmm.
it's really important because they need to set the sort of tone,
Hmm.
check in, be visible. And so even if you do a weekly check in, but once a month or once a quarter, you go a little bigger,
Yeah.
you want to be in front of your people very consistently. You want to let them know what's ahead, what could happen, and how are you prepared to deal with that in different scenarios, right? Because there is a lot of uncertainty. And so the best thing leaders can do is to be as visible and calm as
Yeah.
possible and show that they're leading through it. And again, a good way to do that is be consistent, have some fun also, right? But
Hmm.
be transparent, let folks know what's going on so that there's still that element of trust.
Absolutely. And ways of different engagement, and even in like in your town hall, how the company does each week they do no more than 30 minutes. Sometimes these things could be pre-recorded. You could pre-record them, have available on your own time so people can access this. It's a part of like their checklist before the week gets started. But
Absolutely.
yeah, you could do something like Kahoot. For those who don't know, it's kind of like a poll/fun. Also gets really competitive too, which if you have a good competitive group, this is fun for them. And it polls, and basically the person who answers the quickest and correct, they start moving up the leaderboard. So that's something that's engaging, to just say, hey, if you were listening, what were the top 3 things that were changing in our company, right? And so you start plugging that in. Having things fun, like your backgrounds, like you see ours behind us. Rescue Brand, you have the lifesaver. We're here to save you and your brand and different things. Use Canva design. If you don't have a graphic arts team or a marketing
Mhm.
team, use Canva, get the pro version, utilize it for your business, and it can make it fun. Invitations could be made there, all types of things. And visual brainstorming can also happen in there, because you can
Absolutely.
invite people into the team. They can say, oh, I want to do this and that. Sometimes that's how I work with my team on getting ideas and be able to submit to the client. Here's kind of like the vision board for your event, right? So that's always another great way. Something that we started the beginning of the pandemic with my team is doing a virtual office. So versus doing Zoom, there's a platform. They're out of Germany, and a lot of people in Germany and over in Europe use it. But it's called a virtual office, and if you're small enough,
Mhm.
less than 10 employees, it's totally free. And your little bubble can go into your office space. You can create your office with a desk and a couch and a tree, with a river in the middle, whatever. You can
Oh
little
my gosh.
virtual world. And then you can come, there's a conference table that you can put in the middle where it's time to meet everyone. You see everyone's little circle coming into the room.
Hmm.
So it's really cool. And for those who have sensitive information, you can put a lock around the room. So when someone enters the room, if someone else try to enters in the room, the bubble will be there, but they cannot hear your conversation because it's called a locked room, like secured information. So
Cone of silence. That is crazy.
yeah,
Can you
yeah,
imagine not having these tools available to engage? I love the one you brought up around brainstorming.
yeah.
Mural.co is
Mhm.
a company where it's very much like a brainstorming post-its, right? You can
Mhm.
have everybody be sharing and looking at the screen, and people can add their own post-it notes for brainstorming. And I
Yeah.
know, in a virtual world, it's hard to get people engaged. They turn
Yeah.
off the video. You don't know if they're there. You hope they're there. So that's why having a shorter meeting
Yeah.
and really clear tools and different tools, try different things. So it's
Yeah.
not Zoom fatigue all the time.
Yep.
You can still keep Zoom and use a tool like mural.co,
Right.
but you can do other things too. I also think, I got a branded Christmas package from a collaborator of mine, and it's from City Bonfires, and it's a
Love that.
little uh, fire candle. And
Mhm.
I say fire candle because it's not like a normal candle. It's got
Yeah.
all of these things. If you light it, you need to do it outside to be safe.
Yeah.
But it includes marshmallows, graham crackers, chocolate, and it was just a great gift to send. And it's something where I'm not going to Zoom with them to say, "Hey, I've I've got your gift."
Right.
But it is something that, companies can share as part of recognition too, to say, hey, thanks, right? So
Yeah.
if you do a brainstorming session and you get some great ideas, reward people and say, hey, thanks for participating. Because that's really what we want. We want to keep people not just attending meetings,
Yeah.
but participating. And
Absolutely.
so, you mentioned recorded videos. Loom.com is a
Mhm.
great tool that you can record a 1 or 2 minute video. Maybe it's just a short update, and that's what you send out. Too
Yeah.
many companies have meetings that if you attend the meeting, you're like, could I've got that information in an email or a video? And if the answer is yes, then don't have the meeting, right?
Please.
I mean, meetings really should be where you need to debate, discuss,
Mhm.
figure things out. But if it's an update, do that in a different way so you're not taking up people's time.
Yeah. I mean, think about how other companies do with so let's talk about Apple. Like well, Apple does, they come and get together like here's our new product or whatnot. But that is kind of more for us in a sense, not really for them. And
Right.
there are ways like StreamYard, Remo, when there's an update, they're not holding a live Zoom with everyone who has a StreamYard account. They're sending out an email that says, we have some new updates. Check it out. Click the link here. And then you can go and learn and see what the new updates are all about. And they
Mhm.
make sure that their videos are no more than like 2-3 minutes. That's the max when it comes to even launching new things in their platforms. So it's very important to realize, and I'm so glad you said that, Jen. There's sometimes I'm like, did you have to call me on that, or could that be a text? Could that be an email? Could that be a quick video?
Absolutely.
We just spend it probably 10 minutes on the phone where that could have been two. And it's not to be cold, but like you said in the beginning, we have really valued time differently. And time does not wait for anyone, and it's precious. And
Yes.
so wasting it to me is selfish. And I like to be very efficient with time and with people's time because you can't get it back. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And I think, um, the more I've done events, attended events, and been a part of events, I think it's important for organizations, whether you're a nonprofit, for profit, to consider outsourcing some of that, right? I mean, when I think of my time and my business and its purpose, I don't want to have to invest a lot of time in creating events when that's not my specialty, right? And for nonprofits who need to do fundraisers,
Yeah.
if they're using their staff to manage and run the events, that might be okay. But
Mhm.
what could they be working on if they outsourced that event to an event planning company,
Yeah.
right? And obviously, I love rescue event planning. And so I'm not really doing that as a self promotion or promotion for you, but I think truly in general, to value your time,
Yeah.
think about outsourcing some of this because it does take a lot of time to set up virtual events that are engaging, that are interesting, as well as hybrid events, which are even more complicated.
Yeah.
So, from a brand standpoint, my key takeaway and key recommendation for leaders is challenge yourself on what meetings are you having? How are you setting the tone for the entire company? Can you shorten meetings, even if you cut them in half? Can you do more virtual brainstorming and use tools that just make it easier for people to participate, not just attend?
Mhm.
and really have as much fun as possible this year, because it really does help build those connections. So I highly recommend stepping back and thinking about, if one of your promises from your brand is efficiency or accessibility, then your events need to be that way too.
All the way around. Yes. And I would say, don't, as a takeaway, don't follow the status quo. I love being different. I love being unique. And still be your own self, but don't follow the status quo of we have to have a meeting this way. Give your people affirmations. I love it. I use the app called I Am, and I can schedule when I get affirmations. So I try to do the first thing in the morning, midday, in
Mm,
afternoon. And so the little sound will pop up. My husband's like, "What is that?" I'm like, "It's my affirmation for today." So, and it's different ones. So, like, I am beautiful, I'm smart, or I won't let depression take me down. I can move forward. Just things to remind you, you are here, you're good, and make them feel involved, make your team feel involved, and also your community feel involved. Because a lot of
mm,
people, especially in the millennial and Gen Z, we're really about what are we doing for the world, what are we doing for our
right.
community, and so especially if you have those folks in your network, which most likely they can start coming of age to do that now, right? Make sure you're involved in the community. And it's very important, again, though I would love for us to work together as rescue event planning, but still bringing in some type of third party lens to come in and to see how we can help you for your event, and bringing the team together and feel connected. You don't want your team to start arguing about centerpieces and linens and all that type of stuff. That's not
Yeah.
important. What's important is whatever the overall mission of the event is, and having them feel like they're a part of that piece. Leave all the logistics and details to the event team. So I really hope this was helpful for you guys of helping your brand and how you can tie events into it, because the reality is every encounter, whether it's a Zoom, whether it's a quick 5 minute huddle, it's still considered an event. So change that mindset of meeting to event and be different, be unique, and have an amazing 2022 event year. Thank you guys so much for joining us. This is Melissa Jakes, CEO and founder of Rescue Event Planning, and
Jen Dalton with Brad Mirror. Thanks again.
talk to you soon.